The day I was diagnosed with bone cancer, I hadn't yet told Jim when I received the divorce papers. The night I signed them, Jim spent the whole night smoking in the living room. I couldn't understand why he looked so distressed. I was the one who should be upset. Didn't your husband come with you? I clenched the examination report and shook my head. He must be at the airport picking up Candy by now. Doctor, is my condition very serious? Bone cancer, advanced stage. It was as if a bomb went off in my head. I suddenly went deaf, unable to hear anything, leaning against the cold hospital wall. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number saved under husband. Just when I thought it would go to voicemail, it was picked up. I'm a bit busy now. I'll call you back later. Before I could speak, he hung up. I broke down crying in the hospital corridor. I had heard Candy's voice in the background. It was always like this, with her around. I was always plan B. It felt like thousands of ants were gnawing at my heart. That night, I sat on the sofa waiting for Jim to come home. It wasn't until the clock struck midnight that I heard the door open. His eyes showed a trace of apology as he saw me. Sorry, I had a game night with friends. I guessed that friend must be Candy. Holding my medical report, I wanted to ask him to spend the last 2 months with me. Jim, since you're up, let's get this signed first, Jim said. He pulled out a divorce agreement. And a flood of words stuck in my throat. A metallic taste filled my mouth, and I rushed to the bathroom, vomiting violently. Blood stained the floor. I sat on the floor, wiping away the blood, tears falling unexpectedly. It took me over half an hour to come out, sign the agreement, and start packing to leave. Jim frowned. You're leaving now. I didn't answer. He glanced at my packed suitcase. It's too late tonight. Leave tomorrow. I wanted to refuse, but a sudden pain overwhelmed me. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. At the doorway, Jim asked, Did you really like him? Yes, very much, Jim hummed. That's good. At least your affection wasn't wasted. Can you tell me who he is? I looked at him puzzled, sensing something off in his tone. He's like you. He doesn't like me either. For a moment, Jim thought I was referring to himself. I went to the guest room, poured out a handful of painkillers the doctor prescribed, and swallowed them with my tears. The pain subsided in the late night. I didn't sleep all night, and in the early morning, I dragged my suitcase and left. Opening the door, I found the doorstep littered with cigarette butts, and Jim with bloodshot eyes, clearly having not slept. My heart fluttered with a vague expectation. Jim stubbed out his cigarette. Let me drive you. The last flicker of hope in my heart died, and I chuckled self-mockingly. Sure. We didn't speak on the way. Jim's phone rang. Whoever was on the line said something that made him frown and reply he'd be there soon. Candy, I asked. Yeah, just drop me at the next corner. Don't keep her waiting too long. He still drove me to my apartment. I had someone clean it up in advance. The property and assets listed in the agreement for you will be handled by a lawyer. After he left, I curled up on the sofa and drifted off to sleep unknowingly, only to be awakened by the ringtone of my phone. The caller ID showed Jack. What have you been up to lately? If you don't update your account, the fans will keep nagging. I'm a travel blogger, dreaming of exploring every corner of the world. Jack is the boss of the agency I'm signed with. Since marrying Jim, my posting frequency had decreased significantly, and Jack hadn't said much until now, as it had been 6 months since my last update. My throat was dry, and I tried to speak, but no sound came out. I stood up to get some water, felt dizzy, and as I fell, I hit the coffee table. Jenny, what's wrong? Talk to me, damn it. I opened my eyes to see the stark white ceiling, Jack's eyes red with worry. I managed a weak smile. You know already, Jenny, if it wasn't for me finding out, how long were you planning to keep this from me? You better get well. I won't allow you to die. Jack, a rich second generation younger than me, started crying as he spoke. Don't worry. The doctor said I have 2 more months. Where's Jim? Shouldn't he be with you at a time like this? He better not be with Candy again. We got divorced. Jack paused for a moment, then said, It's better this way. Jack had arranged for the best specialists to treat me, but I refused. I wanted to spend my last 2 months doing things I loved. I promised my fans to show them the beauty of Kekexili. Can you take me there? Jack arranged a private plane, accompanied by a medical team to monitor my condition at all times, the fresh air and blue skies. Herds of yaks and sheep around. I wore heavy makeup to conceal my pale face and recorded a video for my followers as usual. Hello, I'm Jenny, and right now I am in Kekexili. After recording, my back was soaked with sweat. As I collapsed, I saw Jack's worried face before waking up back in the hospital room. The nurse mentioned that Jack was next door discussing my treatment with the specialists. My phone rang. It was Jim. Hello. I tried to sound normal. Where are you? I'm at your house right now. Before I could figure out what to say, he spoke again. No matter where you are, get to the nursing home quickly. Grandma has collapsed. I threw off the blankets and started to run out, but the nurse stopped me. Hey, where are you going? You need to rest. Your body can't handle this. Jack came out hearing the commotion. What happened? Grandma collapsed. I was raised by my grandmother, and Jack knew what she meant to me. When we arrived, the doctor had just finished examining her. She's old, and her organs are failing. I suggest hospitalization, not staying here. I felt weak and couldn't stand. Jack held me close. Jim turned and found the sight of us together unbearable, his dark eyes fixed on me. Have you been with him these past few days? Is he the man in your heart? Jack arranged for both my grandmother and me to be in the same hospital but in different buildings to keep my condition secret from her. Everything was settled. Jim followed me, waiting for an answer. I smiled bitterly to myself. Yes, he's the one I've loved for over a decade. I could clearly see Jim's sharp eyebrows furrowed in concern as he uttered, Jenny, what a coincidence. Jim, you're here too. Candy had arrived. She naturally hooked her arm through Jim's, her laughter carefree and innocent, like a naive girl next door. Disgusting. Jim, you left your clothes at my place last night. Want to pick them up later? Jim's face turned sour. I felt the tension around my waist as Jack spoke. Mister, Jim really has no standards for whom he associates with. Aren't you afraid of catching something? I knew Jack had a sharp tongue, always ready to lash out at anyone he disliked. Regardless of their gender, leaving them doubting their existence, Candy's eyes instantly reddened. Jim, she was trying to make Jim take her side. I couldn't stand it anymore and went to the hospital room to watch TV with my grandmother. Jim and Candy left. Though I decided to let go, my heart uncontrollably ached. At the hospital entrance, Jim's gaze was elusive and his voice cold, devoid of any warmth. You were drunk last night. Next time, have the waiter contact your family instead of calling me. Candy looked at him with hurt eyes. Jim, do you like Jenny now? Jim didn't respond to her question. Just throw the clothes away. I won't wear something that another woman has touched. With that, he turned and went back to the hospital room. Candy was left standing there alone, tears falling. Inside the hospital room, I was watching cartoons with my grandmother. Jack had gone to get food. Jim came in, and my grandmother waved at him with a big smile. Jim's here. Come over by my side. She still didn't know about our divorce. She instructed Jim, I'm old and don't have much time left. After I'm gone, take good care of Jenny. She keeps everything bottled up, no matter how hurt she is. Don't worry, Grandma. I'll take care of Jenny for a lifetime. My heart, which had just calmed, fluttered again at his words. Grandma watched for a while and then fell asleep by the bedside. Jim and I sat in chairs outside. He said, Grandma's not well. Let's not tell her about the divorce just yet. I whispered softly in agreement. We haven't seen each other for a few days. Why have you lost even more weight? Is this how he's taking care of you? The horror of bone cancer is that it can cause excruciating pain at any time, potentially fatal. Like right now. I clenched my fist, nails digging deep. You should go. Jack will be here soon. As I finished, Jack walked in with a bunch of food, understanding my signal instantly. Mr. Jim, you've visited Grandma. We won't keep you for lunch. My body was devoid of strength from the pain, relying solely on Jack. Jim's eyes bore a hard, restrained something. For a moment, I thought he loved me. Lying in the hospital bed, the harsh sounds of machines filled my ears. I struggled to open my eyes but failed. In the haze of a dream, I remembered the moments I had spent with Jim over the years. He was always stern, his demeanor sharp, exuding an aura of authority, treating his home no different from his company. Only when talking about Candy did his lips unintentionally curve upwards. The doctor issued a death notice for me. Jack stood in front of my bed, listening to me murmur Jim's name. He clenched his phone. Hello, I'm Jack. The person on the phone wasn't Jack, but Candy. Jim is in the shower. You can tell me what you need, and I'll pass the message. Who do you think you are to talk to me? Jack hung up the phone abruptly, cursing under his breath. Damn it, after being resuscitated, I woke up, and even the doctors said it was a miracle that I came to. My condition had deteriorated severely, and what was initially thought to be 2 months left was now possibly just a couple of days. I took a lot of powerful medication. The side effects were severe, but they made the pain bearable. I stood at the door of the hospital room, watching the nurse talk to my grandmother. Jack, after I'm gone, tell grandma that I'm traveling the world making videos. I don't want her to have to bury her own grandchild. Sure, where else do you want to go? I'm here to make sure you have a blast today. I mentioned many places. Jack really took me to all of them. Finally, I said I wanted to check out a bar. Since getting married, Jim had only been focusing on work and bars, and I wanted to see what was so appealing about this place. Jack was a VIP here, and we were led upstairs. I felt a piercing gaze on me and looked up to see Jim standing in front of a private room on the second floor, his black shirt unbuttoned at the top, revealing his wrists. His eyes were fixed intently on Jack's hand on my waist. Jim, everyone's waiting for you. Why aren't you coming in? It was Candy. After all, Jim had loved her for so many years. And now that she had returned from abroad, of course, he wanted to be with her all the time. Okay. Candy was inwardly pleased. Since their falling out, this was the first time they'd met, and he had been indifferent to her in the room. Seeing him emerge, she followed him out, brazenly. Candy looped her arm through his. Jenny's here too. Why don't we all go in and have a drink? Jim's friends have organized a welcome party for me. I told them it wasn't necessary, but he insisted. Inside, I mocked myself. Candy's return from abroad had him dropping company matters. Yet in 3 years of asking him to come home for dinner, I always got, "I'm busy," as a reply. Compared to Candy, my defeat was downright pathetic. Jim's eyes on my waist, Jack tightened his grip slightly, an undercurrent flowing between the two men. Of course, I didn't feel it, because I watched as Jim, in front of me, took Candy's hand. Since you're invited, let's join them. Inside the private room, I knew almost everyone. Previously, they all used to call me sister-in-law, but today, they exchanged glances. Jenny's here. Jim and Candy were about to get married, and it made sense for them to side with Candy. I nodded slightly in greeting, with Candy leaning into Jim's embrace. She smirked triumphantly at me. Jenny, is this your new boyfriend? As soon as she finished, everyone in the room turned to look. Jack stood up. Despite his young age, he was not to be underestimated. Candy, do you think no one knows about the dirty deeds you did abroad? If you annoy me, I'll ruin you. Candy's eyes flickered with panic, but she quickly regained her composure. What are you talking about? I don't understand. She turned to me. Jenny, I know you blame me for coming back to the country, but Jim and I are truly in love with each other. You took advantage of a vulnerable situation back then. Please, be generous and let us be. Stop letting Jack target me anymore. I laughed in frustration. Candy really has a way with words, turning black into white. What you don't want others to know, you shouldn't do in the first place. I've also seen those photos of Candy from abroad. Jim frowned. Jenny, it was my decision to have Candy come back. You shouldn't be targeting her. My mind went blank. Jim's words made me feel humiliated. The atmosphere in the private room was chillingly cold, eerily silent. Jim immediately regretted his words, but seeing Jack affectionately holding my waist, his remaining pride prevented him from apologizing. A glint of joy sparkled in Candy's eyes. Indeed, she still held a place in Jim's heart. She was visibly shy. By the way, Jenny, I need a favor from you. You'll agree, won't you? Candy asked coquettishly. I thought to myself that Jim liked this type of girl. Seeing that I didn't respond, she tugged on Jim's sleeve, shaking it a bit. Jim, it's all your fault. Jenny isn't even talking to me now. Jim knitted his brow. Don't worry, she's very generous. She'll definitely agree. Candy was as thrilled as a child. That's great. I was worried about what to buy for my visit to my uncle and aunt tomorrow. Jenny, you've lived with them for so long. You must know their preferences. Would you mind joining me at the mall tomorrow? As soon as Candy finished speaking, all eyes turned to me. Their looks told me that for Jim's sake, I would agree. I used to love Jim without limits. Jack was furious. Candy, watch your words. Just because Jim is here doesn't mean I can't touch you. I have my ways. Candy, frightened by his words, turned pale and huddled in Jim's arms, her pitiful look making her seem vulnerable. Jim looked at Jack coldly. Does your father know you behave like this outside? Jack dismissed it with contempt. Jim, Stop using the company to pressure me, compared to Jenny. I couldn't care less about anything else. Jim's face turned extremely sour. A conflict between the two seemed imminent. I picked up a glass of red wine from the table and poured it over Candy. Surprising everyone, I stated emphatically, I am never generous. With those words, I took Jack's hand and left, ignoring the shocked faces behind me. Last night, I didn't return to the hospital but slept at the apartment instead. Jack said he was worried about me and stayed in the guest room. In the morning, as soon as I opened the door, I saw him busy in the kitchen. Hearing me, he turned and smiled. I asked, we probably don't have any groceries, right? Jack clumsily flipped an egg. I went shopping early this morning with a lady from the neighborhood. She even said how lucky my wife is to have such a perfect husband. I knew how Jack felt about me, but I didn't deserve him. Jack cleverly changed the subject. Take a seat. I'll be done soon. I smelled something burning. Jack stood in front of the stove, blocking my view. Let me see, I said, embarrassed. Jack scratched his head. It's my first time cooking. It's a bit rough. Shall we go out to eat? I saw his cheeks turn red. So innocent. I took off his apron and put it on myself. Let me do it. I swiftly cracked 2 eggs into the pan and prepared 2 bowls of noodles with egg. The delicious aroma filled the air. Jack insisted I sit while he served the food. I smiled warmly. Sure. Ding dong, the doorbell rang. And I went to answer it. Mom. The next second, I realized I had divorced Jim, and it was inappropriate to call her that anymore. Auntie, what brings you here? Monica glanced inside the house. I used to feel sorry for you, but it looks like you're doing just fine without me. No need for guilt then. Originally, Monica had been against my marriage to Jim. Now that Candy is back, she couldn't wait to get her married into their family. I suppressed the sourness in my heart. If you'll excuse me, I need to eat. Monica seemed taken aback by my directness, a look of shock crossing her face. I came to tell you that Candy just got back to the country and doesn't really have any friends here. I want you to take her out shopping today. Her tone was more of a command than a suggestion. I looked directly at her sharp face and said calmly, Auntie, whether Candy has friends here is her business, not mine. I hope this is the last time we meet. Goodbye. Just as I was about to shut the door, an angry voice echoed from the hallway. Jenny, how can you speak to Auntie like that? She took care of you before. This is so ungrateful of you. I laughed. Candy, you left Jim for your career and think no one knows about the dirty laundry you aired abroad. How can you even say these things? Monica turned to look at Candy. She had been upset for a long time when Candy abandoned Jim to go abroad. Eventually, Candy claimed she was ill and didn't want to burden Jim, which somewhat softened Monica's attitude, but Jenny's words were sharp, questioning Candy with a piercing gaze. Candy's expression visibly panicked. Jenny, what nonsense are you spouting? You're the one who can't manage her private life, bringing different men home right after your divorce from Jim. Perhaps you were the one cheating during your marriage, and if that's the case, you won't get a penny. Monica pushed past me and entered. Jack had just served up some noodles. Seeing Jack inside, Monica was incredulous. Jack, what are you doing here? Jack had business dealings with Jim's family, and Monica had always liked Jack, even trying to set him up with her niece before. It's Auntie. Yes, I'm pursuing Jenny now. Came early to show my devotion. Monica's expression soured. Jack had outright rejected her niece before, and now he seemed interested in a divorced woman. It felt like a slap in her face. Jack, as an aunt, I should probably not meddle in your affairs, but since you know you shouldn't meddle, then don't. I was surprised at Jack's straightforwardness, and he signaled me to relax. Monica, visibly upset, scolded, how can you talk to your elders like that? You've been led astray. I scoffed. Anyone would be in a bad mood if a dog bothered them early in the morning. If you don't leave my house now, I'm calling the police. Candy looked pitiful. Jenny, if you don't want to go shopping with me, that's fine, but you shouldn't speak to Auntie like that. I ushered them both out and slammed the door shut. Inside, Jack and I exchanged a smile, relishing the thrill of standing up for ourselves. Outside, Monica and Candy's faces were ashen with anger. At Jim's company group, Candy was complaining to Jim, who looked up coldly. Who asked you to go see her? Sensing his intense aura, Candy hurriedly explained, I was just worried about Auntie, so Jim lit a cigarette and scoffed. Candy, don't play games with me. How did my mom suddenly end up confronting Jenny? You wouldn't happen to be stirring things up, Would you? Over the years, the tension between Jenny and Monica had worsened, largely fueled by Candy's manipulations. Candy looked pale as she said, Jim, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Look, Candy, my divorce from Jenny has nothing to do with you. Since it was my mother who asked you to come back home, just stay with her honestly. If you interfere with Jenny's matters again, I'll arrange for you to be sent abroad. Jim picked up his coat and left, leaving Candy alone, fuming with anger. I had just finished dinner when I received a call from Jim. He mentioned that there were some issues with the divorce proceedings that hadn't been sorted out and asked me to come over to the private club. I used to come here often with Jim. The manager recognized me and directly led me to a private room on the second floor. Jim stood by the window, his back to the door. Hearing the door open, he turned around, his brows furrowed tightly. You've lost so much weight, and you look unwell. Tell me, what hasn't been handled properly? Jim gave a bitter smile. You don't even want to exchange pleasantries with me. He didn't wait for my response and picked up a document beside him. All of these have been transferred to your name now. I wish you happiness. It was hard for Jim to say those words. I glanced at the first page of the document. Jim had transferred most of his assets to me. This is different from what we agreed on. After we got married, you endured a lot at home, and I didn't protect you. Consider this extra as my way of compensating. No need. Well, I knew it. I always knew you were up to no good, eyeing our family's wealth. As long as I'm here, you won't get a penny more. The door was pushed open from outside, and Monica came in and slapped me across the face. Seeing this, Jim immediately shielded me with his body. What are you doing? Monica pointed at my nose and shouted, Candy is the only daughter-in-law I acknowledge. If you have any shame left, get out of Jim's sight and leave with nothing. I only came back to my senses when I felt a burning pain on my face. A metallic taste rose in my throat, and I curled up in pain on the floor. My limbs ached terribly, my face was pale, and sweat soaked through my clothes. Seeing my condition, Monica was scared. Don't think about scamming money from us by faking injuries. I only slapped you once. Stop overacting. Jim pushed her aside and carried me to the hospital. Half an hour later, when Jack arrived at the hospital, he punched Jim straight away. You trash. She barely has a few days left and you still stress her out. I'll kill you. It took a while for Jim to recover. What do you mean by that? Jack sneered. Listen well, Jim. Jenny has bone cancer, and the doctor says she only has a few days left. Jim stood thunderstruck as if struck by a bolt from the blue. He struggled to force a few words out of his hoarse voice. What did you say? Before Jack could respond, the doctor came out, removed his mask, and sighed. The patient's condition is not optimistic. Please notify her family to come and be with her. Jim couldn't believe it, and murmured softly, his lonely silhouette evoking pity. She was fine before. How could she suddenly fall ill? He remembered seeing Jenny recently. Her complexion had looked awful. Turns out she hadn't lost weight. She was ill. Jim broke down and cried loudly in the hallway. They say men don't shed tears easily, but that's only until true sorrow hits. I sat on the hospital bed, staring at the hair in my palm. My hair loss had gotten worse recently, nearly all gone. The door opened from the outside. Ever since Jim learned of my illness, he's been by my side day and night, no matter how harsh my words. He just shrugged them off with a smile. I made some millet porridge myself. Try and see how it tastes. Jack pushed him aside and presented a bowl of century egg and lean meat porridge. Here, have this instead. Jim was pushed aside. Looking down at the millet porridge, his eyes showing a bit of hurt, seeing his fingers blistered from the burn didn't make me feel sorry. I just didn't care anymore. I could barely eat anything, managing only half a spoonful of porridge. Jim still held the millet porridge, his bright eyes filled with hope, wishing I would take a sip of what he had made. I'm tired. I want to rest for a bit. Jack, could you check on Grandma for me? When I woke up in the afternoon, the nurse asked if I wanted to go out for a walk. I agreed, and she helped to get Jim off my back. Looking at the fiercely competing roses in the garden, I thought about how my heart used to be as proud as those roses, yet marriage had eventually smoothed my edges. Candy appeared out of nowhere, blocking my path. Jenny, can we talk? I glanced back at the nurse, her eyes darting away, and I understood. In the hospital gazebo, Candy flaunted the ring on her hand. This is the Jim family heirloom ring given to the daughters-in-law. You've probably never worn it, right? when I was the rightful daughter-in-law of the Jim family. Monica never thought to give me that ring, yet, as soon as Candy returned from abroad, Monica couldn't wait to hand it over to her. I calmly replied, "Congratulations." Candy frowned. "Jenny, Jim loves me. If I were you, I'd leave with dignity. Don't make it ugly for everyone. You can't use your limited days left as an excuse. Originally, your aunt was going to come and talk to you herself today, but I stopped her. If you're sensible, you'll let Jim go back to the company. Furthermore, the assets he gave you are all void, according to your aunt." I looked at her sarcastically. "Are you done?" I handed her my phone with a set of photos. "Before you went abroad, you didn't know about Jim's real status and the Jim Corporation's influence. Thinking he couldn't help your career, you chose to leave abroad. You married and even had a son, but recently, you divorced because your husband went bankrupt and couldn't support the lifestyle you wanted. Now that you know the truth about Jim, you made up an illness to deceive Monica. What do you think she'd do if she knew you were lying to her?" Seeing Candy's face turn as if she'd swallowed something vile was immensely satisfying. Candy clenched the phone. "These are all lies. You're just trying to frame me." Compared to her panic, I was much calmer. "True or false, Jim will quickly get to the bottom of this with his means. I'll give you 3 million to delete these photos, cut off all ties with Jim, and forget about any property. Jim gave me half of his estate. Guess how much that is? 3 million for half a business empire. Even a fool knows what to choose." Candy slammed the table. "I knew you were after the Jim family's money, always pretending to be so noble. Jim should really see this." I took the phone, tapping the screen lightly. "Perfect. Let's show Jim your blissful life abroad first." I sent the photos to Jim. The person he's cherished for so long only loved his money after all. As long as there's money, she'd be willing to be with any man. Candy immediately tried to snatch the phone away. Unfortunately, it's been over 2 minutes, too late to retract. Her eyes reddened, and to an outsider, it might seem like I was bullying her. "Jenny, why can't you stand to see me happy?" She took out her phone to call Jim. But each call was in progress. She had been blacklisted. As I stepped out of the elevator, I saw Jim waiting for me. He tried to please me by reaching for my hand, which I avoided. In the past, his attempts to appease might have thrilled me, but now I couldn't care less. Back in the hospital room, I began to drift into a deep sleep, unresponsive to Jack's many calls. The doctor advised us to prepare for the worst. Jack couldn't take it, cursed the doctor as incompetent, and hid in the restroom. Crying uncontrollably, Candy was still figuring out how to explain to Jim. Instead, she saw him smoking downstairs in the complex. Seeing his angry demeanor, she felt a secret delight. Anger means he still cares about me. Biting her lip, she pleaded, "Jim, I can explain those photos." I was forced. Jim snuffed out his cigarette, fury hidden in his eyes, and slapped Candy. "I warned you not to go after Jenny. Are you tired of living?" Stunned by the slap, she covered her left cheek as tears fell uncontrollably. "Jim, how could you hit me for that woman Jenny? You married her just to spite me, to use her to anger me. I married Jenny because I love her. If you dare show your face to Jenny again, I'll make you regret coming back to the country." Candy watched his receding figure with venomous eyes. The next day, Candy appeared in the grandmother's hospital room with a stack of photos. "Jenny and Jim are divorced now, and I'm Jim's wife. If you don't want your granddaughter to be the other woman, you should talk some sense into her." The grandmother trembled as she looked at the photos. "No, it can't be. Jenny wouldn't lie to me." Candy burst into laughter. "Your granddaughter is dying. That's why she kept it from you. Soon you'll be sending off your own kin." "Ha ha ha." The grandmother's chest heaved, and a passing nurse immediately called for the doctor. Doctor, Candy, intending only to upset her, hadn't expected it to go this far and ran away in fear. I received the doctor's message and rushed to the operating room without even putting on my shoes. Jack comforted me. "Grandma has good fortune, she'll be fine." I was crying so hard I could barely breathe. Jack, worried for my well-being, quickly summoned the doctor. When the lights in the operating room went out, the doctor came out shaking his head. "I'm sorry, we did everything we could. I couldn't handle the shock." Crouching at the door of the operating room as they wheeled my grandmother out, I wailed, "I don't have a grandmother anymore, no grandmother at all." I pulled away the white cloth covering Grandma, and Jack held me tightly. "Grandma loved you so much. She wouldn't want to see you like this from heaven." As Grandma was wheeled into the hospital room, I knelt by her bed, where the bedside table still held the cash she left me in her small purse. 1 yuan, 5 yuan, 10 yuan, they were neatly folded, along with a note. Jenny, this is the money Grandma made from her handicrafts. I wanted to buy you a house of your own, a place to go when you feel wronged after a quarrel, but the down payment was just too much, and Grandma couldn't save enough. From now on, you'll be on your own in this world. So take good care of yourself, Grandma will protect you from heaven. Looking at the note and the few hundred yuan saved, I was inconsolable. Jack stood guard outside, and at one point, he pinned Jim against the wall and beat him until he had no strength left to continue. Jim knelt on the ground, repenting to Grandma. With my cheek against Grandma's hand, I watched the sunrise, and at that moment, I stopped breathing. The doctor rushed in to check and then apologetically shook his head at Jack. Jack, choking back tears, said, "Keep it down, don't disturb their grandmother and granddaughter." When Jim tried to enter, Jack blocked him. "You don't deserve to." My funeral was grand, buried as Jack's wife. Jack's parents didn't object and supported his decision. He sat in front of my tombstone, his beard unshaven for days, looking disheveled. "Grandma, I invested the money you left, and it's multiplied several times over. You can buy Jenny a house now." "Jenny, I told him how long you liked Jim. He wanted to come see you, but I didn't let him. In fact, I was there the first time you saw Jim. The moment you fell for Jim, I fell for you. Next life, could you look to the left first?" Candy's career suffered a joint suppression, and she was now deep in debt. The interest compounded, making it impossible to repay. She went to ask Jim for help. "Okay," the man agreed decisively. Candy thought with Jenny gone, her chance had come. She moved closer to Jim, twisting her body, but he kicked her out. She was sent to an underground venue to earn money, facing different types of men daily. Bald, with beer bellies and yellow teeth, Candy suppressed her disgust. Returning home, she saw "Murderer Pay Your Dues" sprayed in paint outside the shabby neighborhood. "The murderer has returned." Suddenly, a dozen people emerged, throwing rotten leaves and eggs at her. This happened every few days, no matter where she moved. They always found her immediately. These people were all hired by Jack. Jim resigned as the CEO of the corporation, shocking Monica. "The company is your father's life's work. If you resign, it will surely fall into the hands of your uncles, and will be driven out." Jim was determined to resign, wanting to travel the world with me. "Jenny wouldn't want this for you. How about I go apologize to her? You don't deserve to see her, and neither do I. She is now Jack's wife." Jim clutched his chest. It ached terribly. Monica also felt she had gone too far. She hung her head in guilt. She had never realized that Candy was such a scheming woman, completely outplaying her. Hearing that Candy was now faring poorly, she thought, "She deserves it." Jim took me to every corner of the world, capturing it all through his camera lens. My account finally broke through 30 million followers. Years later, Jim died, right in front of my tombstone. When he was found, his body was already cold, and his phone was still playing the last video I recorded in the Kekexili Nature Reserve. The girl in the video smiled charmingly. "Hello, I'm Jenny, and right now I am in the Kekexili." After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.